Kroger Delivery makes it easy to do your holiday shopping in a jingle. There might be a lot on your to-do list, but thanks to Kroger Delivery, you can get everything you need delivered straight to your door at the same great prices you'd find in store. Our refrigerated trucks always ensure that your groceries arrive fresh. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order of $75 or more and get free delivery with a Boost membership. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Welcome to Ghostly. Ghostly is a podcast that has taken a break for a month, and we are just now returning. I've missed it, actually, even though, I don't believe in the ghost. I love hearing the ghost stories. But we have a very special episode for you today. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Pat.
And I'm Rebecca. Yeah, we are back with our annual. It seems to be annual.
It is annual.
Well, this year the topic's a little different, so I guess.
But it is predictions.
It's predictions. Yeah. Just we're changing it up a little bit.
And we have with us the brilliant Jacob Mayfield.
Hi, everybody.
Gorgeous.
The gorgeous, beautiful, brilliant. Yeah.
Hi,
everything.
Guys. It's good to see you. And
it's good to see you too.
And I always love doing our New Year's Eve predictions episodes. It's one of my favorite things to do kind of this time of year.
Yeah. It's definitely a good highlight.
I might be a little biased because of our episode last time, that might have pushed things in a direction where I got a kidney. So,
okay, so you're being a little vague about this, Pat. So, just for anyone who's not up to speed, what do you mean that we had a podcast that got you an organ?
Yeah, so
should probably explain a little bit.
So, in the last predictions episode, for those that don't want to go back and listen, but I would definitely advise you do that because it was a really good one, especially for me.
Yes.
I had the Ace of Swords come up in the tarot, and I jokingly said that is pointing right at my kidney that I need, and that kind of led to one of our listeners who I had met for 5 minutes before that. Yeah. That was it. Deciding to give me a kidney.
Yeah.
Getting tested and finding out that he's a match and giving you his kidney.
Yeah. So,
this is amazing.
It really is.
And, here's the other thing, too. The year before, or maybe it was the other year, I don't know. But another time you predicted that we were going to get this big guest, and we got Rainn Wilson. I mean, your predictions have come true, and I don't know how you're doing this magic voodoo that you're doing here.
I mean, it's definitely, I have been amazed because I do go back and I do check prediction quality, and our ghostly predictions usually are pretty high up there.
They are.
I'm always maybe not as surprised as I should be. But I always joke with people, I'm in a results-based business.
Yeah.
If the results aren't correct, I wouldn't be in business.
Right.
So actually, it was interesting because I know that kind of sparked our almost theme for this year, which was manifestation, which I don't know. Should we jump right into
Let's
it?
do it.
Let's do it.
Well, actually, before we do that, I just want to know about what what you had going on this last year. I mean, it's been a year since we talked to you guys.
We should check in. I mean, we know what happened with Pat.
Yes.
He got the kidney.
Yes.
And by the way, if for our listeners, if you have not listened to our Alton, Illinois episode, it came out. It was the old Confederate prison cemetery.
Yeah.
It came out the end of September. Pat's donor was a guest on that episode, and he tells his story, and they talk about
better
the whole
than
thing.
I could ever do.
So please go listen to that. It's right at the beginning of the episode. So if you want to just check that out, we encourage people to do that.
And not to put more work on either of you, but in our show notes, if anyone's listening and is just curious about organ donation, can we put in just a link, or is there a source that you recommend?
Absolutely. The National Kidney Foundation is the source. And living kidney donation is amazing. It's life-changing. And if you're physically able to do it, you will change someone's life.
Wow.
What was it that Mark said about that, he wished that he was a little bit more prepared, right, for that? So he wished that they had talked to him a little bit more. So if you're going to do something like that, ask a lot of questions.
Yes.
Get a lot. But he said, why did he say, or what did he say he was going to do?
Well, he said the next time I donate an organ, I am going to make sure that I ask more questions about the recovery. And I don't know what else he's able to donate, but I'm, maybe stem cells or something. I'm sure they're
liver, part of a liver.
Part of a liver.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe hair.
I don't know. But he's an amazing human.
He is. I mean, yeah. And so I always joke that I am now not 100% skeptic.
This is what I was going to mention is that the donor is a believer.
I am part believer now. So
in the most scientific way possible.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Literally part believer.
My third kidney, because they don't take away your kidneys when you get a kidney transplant. So in my third kidney, my new one, that is a believer kidney. So
oh my goodness. What a crazy, well, and also even just my year, just for anyone who hasn't been following me on Instagram at Mayfield Magic, just some things that I've been up to. Nothing as cool as an organ donation, unfortunately. But one thing I started doing this year was I started performing in a new show called Magic versus Science. We had a run of shows in April in Chicago, and then a run of shows in September in Indianapolis. And
that sounds amazing. Are you going to do that again?
We're hoping to. And it's a cool show because the first half, I do it with a performer. His name's Tom Britton, is all sideshow, where he explains the science behind it as he's doing it.
Wow.
So the first half's very skeptic-y, and then the second half is the magic, and that's me.
Wow.
So it's a really fun show, and I always say, there's fire eating and mind reading and glass walking and all sorts of stuff. You'll like something.
Now, fire eating is real.
Oh, yeah.
People don't they think there's a trick to it.
Yeah.
The trick is that you pretty much have done it so much and you've burnt your mouth so many times that it just doesn't hurt as bad anymore.
Well, there's also, I think, some other things that you use to make it a little less painful.
There's a lot of science behind it.
There is definitely. But that is
when you say that,
fire, you say that, it's I'm a big fan of Penn Jillette, and Penn Jillette talks about it pretty openly about that you are really eating fire.
Yeah. You're doing the thing. And actually, I think what's so interesting with Tom's part of the show is a lot of times the science behind it does make it more interesting.
Yeah.
Which is not always the same on my side of the show. But he explains the history of fire eating, the science behind it, what's happening, even defining what is fire. Because what are we even eating?
Oh,
right?
Yeah, good question.
Which was something I never thought about until I was watching the show.
Right.
Something else that's coming up in January. I've been doing a lot of teaching this year. I actually taught my Tarot 101 class twice at Sideshow Gallery in Chicago.
Oh, that's awesome.
Both times super well attended. And this January 18th from 1 to 3, I'm doing Tarot 102.
Ooh.
I've never done a 102 class, so I'm very excited.
And knowing you, I'm sure you have a book of notes that for teaching this.
I currently have an 8-hour class, and I'm trying to pare down.
Wow.
Because every time I'm oh, well, maybe.
Just so those that don't know, Jacob always comes prepared. He has notes right in front of him right now. He's one of the most prepared guests that we've ever had. So
thanks, guys. But it's a cool class. The main focus of the class is spreads and intuition development.
Nice.
So if that's something you're interested in, you live in the Chicagoland area, you can go to sideshowgallery.com or just message me on whatever.
What kind of spreads are you going to teach? Or
we're starting with a really simple 3-card spread to kind of make sure everyone's on the same page. But I do have one that I've been looking at that is an 18-card spread.
Nice.
And I'm trying to figure out how logical it is to do that in a class setting. And there's definitely a lot of cool stuff in the works.
Wow.
I also spent a month in Italy this year.
Yeah. I love the pictures that you took. Yeah.
Some just kind of spooky elements from that trip is I got to go to Bergamo and see the Visconti Sforza Tarot, which is the oldest tarot deck we know that's in existence.
Okay, I thought that was food. It sounded like food.
It all sounds a little bit like food,
right? Italian sounds like food to me. I don't know.
And I will say, after 30 days, maybe one okay meal, but the rest fantastic. Every meal great.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So awesome. We saw a beautiful painting of a palm reading at the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, and we went to an esoteric exhibit at a palazzo in Venice. What else? I also went to Roswell, New Mexico this year.
Wow.
Which is very cool.
Wow.
Now, have either of you ever gone?
No. I think we did an episode on Roswell, didn't we?
Yeah.
Or we were going to do it. I don't know. I can't remember
if we've actually done Roswell, but yeah, it's place I'd love to go.
It's very interesting.
I think they've really embraced their
Kroger Delivery makes it easy to do your holiday shopping in a jingle. There might be a lot on your to-do list, but thanks to Kroger Delivery, you can get everything you need delivered straight to your door at the same great prices you'd find in store. Our refrigerated trucks always ensure that your groceries arrive fresh. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order of $75 or more and get free delivery with a Boost membership. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Though yes. I think they kind of make fun of it too, though, a little bit.
I think there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek going on.
Yeah.
For sure. When you have a alien-themed Dunkin' Donuts...
Wow.
Right.
There's a lot of tongue-in-cheek.
You're embracing that, yeah.
To that, what else did I do? A lot of just working at different colleges and universities, doing tarot palmistry, did a run of shows this Halloween at the, a theater locally. Mm-hmm. But I think probably... I don't know, because you're a White Sox fan, right?
No. I was born on the South Side, but I'm a Cubs fan.
So I got to work for the Cubs this year.
Did you really?
Yeah, which was probably one of my favorite things I did.
You know what? I commented on your
I don't know
Instagram
why we
post
weren't
about that.
included as helpers for that,
as assistants. But it was just a year where even just sitting down and thinking about what should I share when I go on? So much good stuff this year. It felt like a really great year. So
awesome.
And I'm excited to talk about manifestation. Yes. So kind of going full circle, you suggested that this year for our tarot predictions, we take kind of a different kind of approach, Rebecca. So tell me about kind of the marching orders you gave me, and then we're gonna dive into it.
Yeah. Well, I think I was inspired by last year, but it's I want to move from this passive thing of let's see, it's fun to do what did the tea leaves say, or what did the cards say, and
what did the Greek coffee say?
Yeah, right.
Which, by the way, I still taste that Greek coffee to this day.
On a cold winter's night, you're and
it's super fun. I love all those things, but I think taking things in a more active direction is even more fun.
Yeah.
You kind of start with some of those predictions, but then I do think, even though I'm a believer, but that you do need to take action in order for those predictions to have legs and
100%. And I like what you talked about, just being active creators in our future, right? Because we talked about what if we did something with manifestation and predictions, and I thought that was such a cool idea, because I think it really speaks well to your podcast, right?
Yeah,
because there's elements of it that are very spiritual, and there's elements of it that are just very good goal setting.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think that there could be anything wrong with it. It's to me, manifestation, even if you don't believe in it, it's not a bad thing. It's setting your goals and hoping that they come true and thinking about them often, and that leads to action. So action leads to results. So,
exactly. And even what you just said, like thinking about it, because everything's created twice. And I talk about this a lot when I do manifestation law of attraction work. It's created once in your mind and then once in reality. So one of the really powerful things with manifestation is even just sitting down and figuring out, what do I even want?
Yeah.
Like, what am I even trying to create? So one of the first things I want to just kind of, not so much debunk, but explain some basics is manifestation, law of attraction are used a lot interchangeably as words. But what are we even talking about? So there are these two interconnected ideas, but they can really work together for kind of your desires, what you're trying to create. With manifestation, kind of the main focus is the process of turning a desire into reality through thoughts, beliefs, and actions. So kind of going back to what Pat said, it's not just like sitting at home and being like, I can't wait to meet someone, and then never leaving your home. Hoping Amazon will deliver that with the rest of your like Prime stuff.
Absolutely. I'm like a firm believer that, even if you believe in supernatural help or something like that for like a medical problem, if you're like, I'm going to pray, yes, pray, that's fine. That's great. But do too, go out there and do some stuff to help, It's like prayer can only take you so far. I think you need to step out and do stuff too.
Well, another example I remember hearing, one of the best dating advices that I heard someone say was, you can wish all you want and you can do all sorts of things, but unless you are actively dating and going out there and meeting people, you're like, you can say like, oh, maybe I'll meet him at this bar tonight, or I'll go to a friend's party and I'll meet this perfect girl. It doesn't work like that. Like if you are not taking steps to actively like not just put out in the universe that you want somebody, but also like meeting people, you're not going to meet somebody.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think it's interesting just the idea of like, how do I take actions? And actually, I have a question for you, Pat. So obviously you just went through a huge medical experience, one that obviously was based in science. I'm curious because obviously you're a skeptic, but were there times where, whether it be emotional or spiritual, just having that comfort in combination, to be very clear, with the science, was that nice or helpful for you? Like even just having people call you, think about you, say like, I'm praying for you, like what effect did that have on you? And there really isn't a wrong answer. I'm not like fishing for an answer here. I'm just curious.
Once upon a time as a pagan, I had this belief that that prayer is energy.
Yeah.
And if I do not want that energy, then that's a negative thing and you're causing harm to yourself. That was my belief.
Yeah.
And now I've let that go.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I mean, sure, as long as you keep me in your thoughts, that's all I care about. It's so if that means that you're going to pray for me, that's fine. I don't mind. We can all, like, if there is something that I'm missing that I don't know about, hey, I'm willing to take help from whoever, especially for a kidney. So, I mean, that was, it was helpful for that.
Well, and I like that you brought up just the sense that like support can look a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you had an outpouring of support that looked very different from different people, from people saying like, I'm going to be praying for you often, to people saying, I'm just going to be spending good energy or vibes, or even just like a funny GIF text message, which isn't particularly spiritual, but sometimes, I don't know, just like someone thinking of you, something uplifting. I think it does have an effect on the experience.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it did. I mean, I don't know if that made the outcome better, but I mean, it didn't make it worse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, could it? Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But so getting back to manifestation in general, so our thoughts, beliefs, actions, what are the kind of key principles? First one is setting clear intentions. So what am I looking for here? This is a place where I always tell people it's okay to get picky.
Sure.
So like an example would be like, do I want to go out for a great meal tonight? Okay, maybe. But if I'm really specific about like, I want to go out for like an amazing Italian meal.
Yeah.
The place I go may not have what I'm looking for, or I might go somewhere else, but even just focusing in on that, I'm not going to end up at a steakhouse. Yeah. You know, I'm really getting strong intentions.
So your chances are better then.
Yes. Yeah. It's increasing your chances, but also just increasing your focus of, well, I don't even know what I want. It's like, well, no, I do. I want Italian, and maybe I didn't get what I wanted at this restaurant, or they weren't open, but just being clear with what I'm even doing.
Sure.
That's already put me like a mile ahead. I also think visualizing the success is really, really important.
What is it called? Like a memory board or the...
Yeah, you can do like a visualization board, a memory board. A lot of athletes actually do this where they'll close their eyes and they'll imagine like swimming or like running.
Yeah.
And being able to visualize that, it can show huge like areas of success.
Sure.
And I think, you know, even like anecdotally, when we've been successful doing something before, it might be intimidating or hard the next time, but there is a sense of like, well, I've done this.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, I can do it.
Well, sure. I mean, like, I was having problems in this one job that I was in. I was about to be fired.
Podcast host?
No. I was about to be fired from this job, and I didn't want to accept that. I didn't want to. So I took a business card and I wrote on the back that I was going to get a promotion.
Okay.
And I set a specific time period that I was going to get this promotion in. So not only was I not going to get fired, and they had actually called me in and said the next step is that we're going to have to let you go if you don't start performing better.
Yeah.
And it was nothing that I could do to make myself perform better. It wasn't like I needed to study more. I needed to, you know, work faster or something like that. I just needed to be better at what I did. And I wrote on that business card, and within that amount of time, I would look at the card every couple of days or so, and I kept it in my daily planner. Remember daily planners?
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
And I kept it in there, and I would look at it every so often, and I got that promotion. And not only that, it actually, I kept getting promoted then. So that was something that was, I don't know, to me it was like, yeah, I'm not a believer, but what harm would that do for anybody to write something down and wish for something and just look at it and make little goals for themselves to get that done?
Well, and I think what you're describing too, like that is a classic example of manifestation.
Yeah.
Because you had a really clear intention.
Yeah.
You're able to visualize success. I love that you used a business card.
Yeah.
Because like that feels very like
it was work. Yeah.
Right. Like it's work.
Yeah.
Also, something else that comes up is like maintaining emotional alignment and just like a belief.
Yeah.
So I think this is one area that people can really struggle in is they don't believe it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But seeing it every day, taking those little steps. Something else that will come up is taking inspired action. So you see the little business card and you think, okay, what's an action I can take? Something inspired by this goal, not just I'm going to fix things at work.
Sure.
Which is a terrible thing to manifest.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
You said, not only am I not going to get fired, I'm going to get promoted.
Yeah.
And you can take all these little actions towards that, not actions towards, if you had written down, I will not get fired, I think you would have had very different results.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
That's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, even if it worked, I would have just gotten by.
And that was something that I've thought about too. When you say set clear intentions, it also needs to be the right intention.
Yes.
Not, it needs to be realistic, right? It needs to be specific, as you said, but it also needs to be on the like.
Kroger Delivery makes it easy to do your holiday shopping in a jingle. There might be a lot on your to-do list, but thanks to Kroger Delivery, you can get everything you need delivered straight to your door at the same great prices you'd find in store. Our refrigerated trucks always ensure that your groceries arrive fresh. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order of $75 or more and get free delivery with a Boost membership. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Most weight loss plans are one size fits all, not taking into account each person's individual needs. Noom is here to change that. Noom Weight uses psychology. That's why they say losing weight starts with your brain. But it also takes into account your unique biological factors, which also affect weight loss success. The program helps you understand the science behind your eating choices and why you have cravings. Everyone's journey is different, so your daily lessons are personalized to you and your goals. One of the great things about Noom is that it's nourishing instead of restrictive. They focus on progress instead of perfection. You don't have to give up carbs, or anything for that matter. Have cravings? Food FOMO? Noom can help you lose weight while still enjoying your favorite foods. To date, Noom has helped more than 5.2 million people lose weight. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com.
The positive side or
100%.
you know what I mean? Like you need to take the right approach again. And I'll bring in again that dating thing, because I think that's a lot of people. That's their thing of like, I want to meet my person or, whatever. And, you can say, well, my perfect person has this color hair and they look like this and they have this kind of job and this kind of degree. But like, is that really what matters? Like,
right.
It's like, or is there have you dated people that look the part before or have the right whatever and like that hasn't worked out? So like really start to look at your patterns and like, what is it that you really want in a person?
Yeah.
What is
you
it that
really, really want?
What you really, really want?
Would you tell me what you want? What you really, really want?
I wish I knew the rap break. I was like hoping I would find it.
But yeah, it's like you want to pick maybe the like other qualities or other pieces that are going to be more, something that is a deeper thing.
Something you said that I thought was so brilliant, Rebecca, was the like self-assessing component.
So
I will tell people who are single, I'm like, when was the last time you updated this list? Mm-hmm. Because if you're still searching for your dream guy from when you were 13, you may not want that anymore. Right. All right. Like this might be time to update, to rethink. And even I think the hardest part of manifestation for a lot of people is getting that goal of what do I want to manifest. Pat, your example, which like we also did not talk about this before, and I'm just like, it's the perfect example because it's concrete, it's realistic, and it's something that you can take action towards.
Yeah,
it's so tangible, but it's also clear. Yeah, you gave a date and you said a promotion.
Yeah,
you're not like I'm going to make them regret firing me, or I'm going to get promoted to CEO or something.
No, yeah. But I mean, also too, I think that you're going to increase your chances if you do different things too.
Oh, yeah.
Like giving your example of the dating. Well, if you always go to the same bar and you expect to find somebody new at this bar, it might not happen. Maybe if you go out to something else, maybe don't go to a bar, maybe go to a church, maybe go to a social gathering someplace else. Maybe try new things to broaden this possibility.
Well, and something you're bringing up that I've talked to clients before in the past is someone will describe the kind of person they're looking for.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't want to go on apps, which I totally understand if people do or don't. I met my spouse on an app, so I'm fine with apps. But let's say you say there's a sense of, I want to meet someone really charitable.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then go to a charity event.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Go start volunteering at places and meet other volunteers.
Yeah. Right. Like if you want to
that's the inspired action piece.
Exactly. Right. Because and that's what's so important with manifesting is you sit down and it's like, well, I want someone who's over 6'1", and it's like, okay, I mean, shoes could cover, like, give you a little here and there, but there's also the sense of what you talked about, Rebecca, of like, what do you really want? And when you get to the core of that, it also becomes so much more clear what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's huge.
Well, or going back to Pat's thing, just thinking about this is like, here's the thing. If you had been really bad at that job and at a core, right? And maybe it really wasn't the right career for you, then maybe you're setting an intention of getting promoted wouldn't have really been the right move for you. But I think it was because you wanted to do that work and could see yourself,
I'm
like
also going to interject. I think that when you're doing the manifesting process, if it's something that's not right for you, I think you would have realized that in doing it.
Yeah.
I think that
I don't think I would have taken the time to manifest.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's really what we're going to focus on after we get through just a couple more quick manifestation basics. And then we're not going to get into any of like the history, any crazy stuff like that. We're just going to like get people going so they can do this.
All right.
But key principles, clear intentions. What do I want? You have to be able to visualize it. You want to maintain an emotional alignment and belief. You want to take those inspired actions, and you want to be patient. So really, the application of manifestation is a tool for personal growth and goal achievement. Now, law of attraction, and I bring this up because they're used interchangeably. I think the word manifestation is having a moment right now.
Sure.
But when you get into the history, this is something that gets relabeled every 40 years.
Yeah.
But what is law of attraction? It's the idea that like attracts like.
It's the secret.
It is.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
So it's the idea that positive thoughts and emotions attract positive outcomes. So going back to Pat's example, he didn't say, he's like, I am going to get promoted. That's all very positive. Yeah. It's not, they will, I think you give the example, they'll understand why they're so stupid when they fire me.
Right.
Putting things in a positive framework, it's not about being, overly optimistic.
Yeah.
It's not like being devoid of reality, but it also helps put things within our locus of control.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I can make this happen, or this is what needs to occur. And it also brings up the idea that negative thoughts can also lead to negative experiences.
Sure.
So if you had tried to manifest, I want to stay in this job until I absolutely can't anymore, which is something that people will say.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
That is not going to be a fun experience.
No.
Okay. You are not set up for
You're
success.
You're going to be putting up with a lot. Then,
right.
So.
Because what's your focus? Your focus is on, I want to stretch this as much as I can. So law of attraction is really one part of manifestation. So key takeaways before we get into some of this: manifestation is aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions to your goals. Law of attraction is that mindset of like attracts like. And the idea is that if you use them together, you can supercharge goals and things you want. All right. Do we feel like for our listeners, they have a strong background? Because there are people who spend entire books and courses covering this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know you put some history stuff in here, which I know we like the history, but I think it's enough maybe even to just say this has been around for a long time.
I agree with that.
You bring up the idea of karma with Hinduism and Buddhism and things like that, and then I mentioned The Secret, but and I actually hadn't even seen that you had that in there, but that was an Oprah book or something that came out.
It was a huge,
it was a big deal.
It was a book / movie. That came out in 2006, and it was really the idea of a law of attraction, getting positive, manifesting.
I do not recommend that book, though, because it takes forever to find out that's what the secret is. Yeah. It was a long book for that. Yeah.
It's not my favorite metaphysical read.
Okay.
And I understand for some people it is. And if you love it and if you found success with it, very happy for you. Sure. Not my cup of tea. Pretty much when we want to manifest, when I teach manifestation, first thing is to tell people they need to get ready to manifest. So there's different tools and processes you can use for that. The easiest two that I found the most success with is doing a audit of the first 20 minutes of your day and just saying, how do I begin my day? Because that first 20 minutes, it sets the tone for our entire day.
It does, yeah.
So if you're waking up screaming and running through your house and it's chaotic and you're trying to manifest something that's grounded and relaxed, you're not starting off on the right foot, you know? And that's what it's really about. It's how do I start off on the right foot?
Well, I've been watching a lot of fitness influencers lately because I'm taking this voyage into fitness. And that is what they all say, too. I mean, they do say stuff like wake up at 5 a.m., which I'm I don't really
can't
love
trust
that
everything
idea.
on the internet.
Yeah, right? But I mean, but they do say, it's drinking water right away in the morning. It's taking time to be in the sunlight. It's, doing stuff like this that sets your whole day off the right way.
But even thinking about an example I will often think about is listening to something motivational or even listening to an audio book, even just saying, well, I start my day by reading. I start my day by doing something positive. It doesn't have to be a big, expensive or complicated action.
Yeah.
It can be really simple. And the whole process, although it's challenging to do, it is a simple process.
Absolutely.
Something else is just gratitude. Thinking about ways to express gratitude, explore gratitude. I've worked with people about writing thank you notes, making a list of things that you're grateful for, but something that I actually personally like to do a lot is just a gratitude text. So if that's something I really want to invite in, or if I've been feeling really ungrateful, which like happens, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll be like, I'm gonna send a text to somebody and I'm just gonna say like, I'm really grateful for you, or, oh, I never really circled back with that person. And even saying like, that's the kind of energy, the kind of attitude I want to have, that helps set you up for success.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that.
But really,
you're inspiring me right now. Like,
we're gonna do
good.
a pretty intense manifestation reading for you.
I'm excited.
Which I'm excited for.
I need it.
And then when I teach manifestation, I do a 7-day process. First one is you have to pick what you want to manifest, which is what we're gonna focus on together, like as a team today. The second day is really affirmations, which is that positive statement. I will admit, I think that some of the stuff about affirmations online is so saccharine and gooey and so like make a wish it will come
good
true.
Enough. I'm strong enough.
Yeah, like
doggone it, people like
it.
And
people
people like me. But that's the thing. I think it can look really cheesy. And I think what I tell to people a lot is like your affirmations for you.
Yeah.
So
that's what I did with that.
I was just going to say,
too.
that's what you did with your business card.
I did. But I actually did it in the mirror too, because that is something whenever I would look at that.
I was also surprised.
So by the way, let me go back to this. The job was number driven. It was not something that like I had much control over. Okay, so it was, and my numbers went from let's say 60% to 1 month 100%. And wow. every day I would wake up and I'd say, I am good at this. I am good at this
And it
job.
was true, like you said, it wasn't that you learned a new technique. It was truly like your mindset of how you were approaching this thing that you were doing.
Yes. Yeah. The skeptic says yes.
But I also like that you talked about mindset too, because that also speaks a lot to expectations, what we're doing when we manifest.
Yeah.
If your arm has fallen off, and you're going to try to positively regrow your arm.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know if you're going to be successful.
Right.
But that mindset is all those little changes. So the affirmations, visualizing, making sure that you can visualize, usually what we focus on day 3. 4 is acting as if. So I love that you made a business card, Pat.
Yeah.
Because people who are like, very kind of like corporate-y America, like you have a business card when you're successful, and that's very much like, well, I'm acting like I have it because
it was a symbol. Card. It was a symbol to me,
and like a powerful symbol too, and not one that, because I think when people think about incorporating something that's symbolic into any kind of work, it feels so esoteric and out there.
Yeah,
it's like, what? But like a business card, that is powerful. Then on day 5, we go through gratitude lists, gratitude exercises, really feeling grateful. The other thing too is sometimes when we're exploring what we're grateful for, it shapes what we want. And that it can be a very intimate and a very unexpected experience for people. So going back to the example of, well, I want to manifest like a person, like a romantic partner. Sometimes when we're saying that we're making a gratitude list of all these people in our lives we're grateful for, there can be this realization of, oh my goodness, a lot of the things that I've been looking for in a partner, so many other people in my life are fulfilling in such a beautiful and authentic way. One person's never going to provide everything for you in your life.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such a tall order. And if you're married, the thought that your spouse would get every single thing from you as a person,
that's putting a lot of pressure on
that's
them.
way too much, right?
It is.
But sometimes we're doing that gratitude list and we have a moment of, oh my goodness, do I even want this? Or no, I really do. So it helps that refocus.
Right. What is it that I really want?
Right. Then day 6 sounds the most woo. So I'm gonna forewarn you, Pat.
All right, I'm ready.
I talk about raising your vibrations. So let me explain a little first, and then I'm gonna let you comment. All right.
Sure.
So it's elevating your energy to align with a positive outcome. So for me, this is just getting into that good mindset.
Yeah.
So some things that I'll do with clients is, think of one person that you want to share an adventure with. What's a meal that reminds you of a really good time in your life? What's a memory that makes you giggle? Like, is there a song that really pumps you up? Doing these things and kind of reflecting and like having that meal, listening to that song, they're all things that get you into the right mindset. Yeah. When you come back on a Monday after being told, if you don't shape up, we're going to fire you.
Yeah.
It's hard to be in a good mindset that day.
It definitely is. Yeah.
But with doing something like, well, I love, like, my favorite dinner is this. So, on Wednesday, I'm going to make that for myself.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to put on my favorite song. Like when I'm going to work, when I'm walking, I'm going to pump myself up a little bit. It gives us all those things that for me feel very like energetic and vibration oriented, But I think on the other side of that spectrum is kind of like getting yourself into the right mindset for something that can be really challenging and really difficult to accomplish.
Well, and I think there are like psychiatrists, psychologists would offer some of the similar advice. Like there is a science base to it too, of like putting yourself in a positive frame of mind can absolutely, affect your, I mean, level of happiness.
I see nothing wrong with it. It's giving you inspiration, and that inspiration can carry through your day. I mean, I meditate every night, and when I meditate, I focus on, who I want to be, what I want to be, or nothing at all. And that puts my mind at ease, and it sets me up for the next day. And so I definitely think that, being inspired, whatever means it takes, is fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, and that's why I really like manifestation, because I feel like once you know the basic principles, you can take it in a very spiritual direction, but you can also keep it in a very kind of...
Yeah, I mean, it could be. You could, have crystals and incense, and, you could do all those things, which I used to do being pagan.
I love crystals.
Shout
out to the racks.
Well, one thing that I have done in the past is imagining just like light.
Yes.
Right? That's like going all over you, going inside you, maybe connecting you to other people.
It's a very metaphysical exercise.
Oh, yeah. And it was the first time I did that. I think I was listening to some tape. I mean, like literally a tape. I'm old. That someone gave me.
Reel to reel?
When I was, yeah, I think I was still a teenager even. But like, it was just amazing, like to me. And I felt lighter.
Yeah.
So when you were listening to the phonograph.
Yes, exactly.
The wax cylinder.
The wax cylinder. But yeah, like just, so again, you can take it in that more metaphysical way, I think, and you can,
I mean, I would not go that
Pat
far.
Doesn't know that I have in my brain, your kidney and the space where Mark's kidney was have a light that connects them constantly.
Kroger Delivery makes it easy to do your holiday shopping in a jingle. There might be a lot on your to-do list, but thanks to Kroger Delivery, you can get everything you need delivered straight to your door at the same great prices you'd find in store. Our refrigerated trucks always ensure that your groceries arrive fresh. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order of $75 or more and get free delivery with a Boost membership. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
So
like such a revelatory podcast. I'm like, what could happen still? And then the last thing I always tell people is to share your results, even a week in. So there are some things you can manifest in a week, right? Like if you wanted to save $20 a week.
Yeah.
You could probably manifest that in a week.
Sure.
Yeah, don't go to Starbucks once.
Yeah, one less Starbucks. But like there are things like that. But even if I wanted to manifest like a completely different body type, I can still share my results in a week, which I think is so important to really focus on things that are so within our control, especially when we're getting that momentum going.
Yeah.
Because it could even be like, wow, like Pat, I'm so excited that I really committed to drinking more water this week.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite get to my goal and I still drank a lot of pop, but I'm getting there. Or even sharing I went to the gym.
Yeah.
I started the process.
Just go to the gym for 5 minutes. You don't even have to, just walk in, walk out. It doesn't matter. Just going there is part of the habit.
Oh yeah.
But there was a DJ that was in Chicagoland area that I disagree with on everything now, but he used to say that setting.
I love that Rebecca and I are looking at each other like, where could this be going?
That what he would do is he would set these goals in his life, and then he would do something every single day, aiming towards that goal.
Yeah,
he was not passive about it. And he achieved a lot of goals that he wanted to do by starting small. It could just be a phone call. It could be anything. And like going to the gym for 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Just walking in the door.
I had a saxophone teacher when I was a kid who would always joke that the hardest part of practicing was opening the case.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because once you've opened the case, it's like, well, I guess I'm going to hold it.
Getting the reed wet? There's a reed, right? Yeah. So getting the reed wet and
and they always say too, like taking a walk or going to the gym is like putting your shoes on, because once your shoes are on, you're going to be like, okay, I'm going, or if you have to clean something, like my friend and I always would say, just like set a timer for 10 minutes. And you're going to just like clean one thing.
Absolutely.
And guess what's going to happen? You're going to probably clean a little bit more than that. Or even if you don't, that's still better than nothing.
Which, by the way, if anyone wants to know the DJ, they could just message me and I'll tell them. So I just don't want to say it on the air. So
it's me. No. So
you were a DJ?
I it's one of my many talents.
You used to spin some records?
Oh, used to, lay down the vinyls, as we called them.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's manifestation in a nutshell.
I love that.
You get super clear, and then I like following that process of affirmations, visualizing, acting as if, gratitude, raising vibration, and really sharing the results and making that part of it, finding those trusted friends. Everyone listening, I'm sure there is someone in your life where if you do something positive, they may not tell you they want to hear about positive things in their life, but they want to hear. They want to be there for you. They want to support you.
Right.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's just sharing with a very friendly person at Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Their staff is so friendly. And sometimes it's like that really big person, but even just sharing, that's such an important step. There's always time to celebrate. And I think especially as we age, it gets harder to take time to celebrate, which is ridiculous because you're older. You have so many things to celebrate now.
Right.
Like, should we have really done that preschool graduation? I don't know. But I think it's exciting. So what we're going to do now
here we go.
We've gone through the basics of law of attraction, and we're going to do a spread with Rebecca.
Okay. He's got the tarot cards.
So I got the cards.
Which deck is this?
It is a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. It's called Tarot 1909. It's a reproduction using that coloring and also the back.
I love that.
But I love it. And what we're going to have you do is we're going to have you shuffle up.
Shuffling, okay.
And we're going to focus on what you're going to manifest this year.
Okay.
So as you're kind of shuffling, talk to us. Does anything just immediately stick out to you? If not, that's actually great because we're going to be working on it. But is there something that's already like been in your mind that you've been ruminating on?
So there's a couple things. It's hard because like I do have some things, but I actually would like help in figuring out maybe the best way to manifest or the right area to focus on, because there are a few that I have in my mind. And I think that's because I think you can you're like, well, I want to focus on this and I'm going to focus on this and I'm going to focus on that. Yeah. And it's not to say that you should ignore everything, but it can be overwhelming if you try to focus on too many things.
100%.
I'm going to do one more shuffling.
No, that's perfect. You talked about cleaning earlier. Think about how many times, like personally, where I'm like, I can't believe I have to clean right now. I'll never do this. And it's like, well, if I just did one thing and then did another thing and just focused in.
Right.
I'd probably be okay.
Yeah.
But instead I'm freaking out because there's too much to do.
Just 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah,
That's
it is. It's definitely like just that action. So what we're going to do, Rebecca, is we are going to create a spread. It's a 9-card spread. And it actually is pretty easy to describe auditorily.
Auditorily?
Oh, okay.
Something like that. I don't know. Just trying to make a little room for you on the table.
No, thank you. And we're going to do 5 cards at the bottom.
Okay.
And they're really looking at different life domains. So the life domains we're looking at are wellness, relationships, vocation, resources, and time.
Okay.
Anything that you want to create is related to those things.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So sometimes we don't even pause to think about what's going on with the domains of our life. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but I want you to interject as much as you want.
Okay.
Obviously, it's your reading. And like I tell when I'm doing a reading for anyone, if something doesn't make sense, that's not your fault. That's my fault. My job is to make things clear for you.
Yes.
So if something's unclear or if something's just incorrect, feel free to say it, because I want us to have a really great experience and also model what this can look like, because we're using a spiritual tool for something that I think is going to be more mindset based.
Sure.
Which I'm super excited about.
Yeah.
So looking at wellness, we see the 8 of Swords in inversion. For me, this would definitely speak to a sense of, I don't really know what I want to be doing with this. I kind of feel like I have decision paralysis in a way. Does that resonate at all?
Yeah, I feel like I want to say a holding pattern, because that's not true.
Okay.
I'm taking good steps for my health, but I feel like it's going to take it's going to take a while, and
so it's daunting.
And so it's like I'm trying not to focus too much on like everything that I have to do.
Right.
I'm like, I'm doing my thing that I'm doing right now.
Right.
It's going well, and I'm just going to keep riding that wave.
I like that you talked about like just focusing on that one thing at a time, which is very manifestation based in general. I also think with this card, there's a sense of one with the blindfold. It can be a looking for clarity, but can also be just like staying focused inward. I think a lot of people, their most powerful health and wellness journeys are when they're no longer comparing to others or comparing to preconceived notions or timelines or garments that they've held on to. They're really just looking inside. That's also like really hard, which I think is why this card looks so gloomy.
Yes.
Because I know I can speak from my personal experiences. When I think of like my wellness, there's definitely been times where I'm frustrated because like, why isn't this happen? Why aren't I doing it like this? These weren't my expectations.
Right.
The next card we look at relationships, Tower and Inversion. Ooh. Now I know if you're a tarot reader, you're listening, you're probably like, oh my God, Tower. Like, I think for me, it shows relationships around you that have been coming down, not relationships ending, but I think being redefined. So for me, this really resonates with things with you and Pat. Things are so different now because he is in such a different place. The relationship's different.
Like we can travel for Ghostly.
Yeah.
We could do shows places. Like it's completely different.
It kind of, because I think a lot of times when we think about a relationship being redefined or crashing down to be rebuilt, we assume it's bad.
Yeah.
This isn't bad. Things were just different because someone very important in your life was in a very different place.
Sure.
And that old kind of dichotomy, all those thoughts, those are kind of crashing down and creating something new. So that to me is actually really positive.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you'd want to continue on with your relationship and with your lives as if things were the same as they were last year.
Yeah.
Why? We're going towards bigger, better things. Vocation, professionally, Hierophant, it's a card of, we see it with not only religious leaders, but we also see it with educators. And we can always cut this out, but you do work in education.
I do.
And I hope you felt comfortable sharing that.
Yes.
Sorry. When I see this in inversion, I think vocationally, I think that you're someone where you don't always like doing what has always happened because that's what we always do. I think when this comes flipped, it's very much someone who's not afraid to ask questions and sometimes make points that have to be made, but may not always be the most comfortable to make. And I think that's been a lot of what's going on. The other thing with Hierophant too is because it shows someone who's like in that position of power, I think it also speaks to the fact that professionally people recognize your expertise.
Okay.
Did you get a promotion last year? I can't remember.
It was a year ago, October.
Okay.
But this year was really the year, my first full year in this role. And like I would say my when you were asking, vocation is kind of the area that like my brain went to.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, but then it's like, well, but the other areas are important too. But like that's been in my mind because I feel very much there's been a lot of change happening at work, which change that could result in like more opportunities, but hopefully, you know what I mean? Like I think it's difficult change and people are very upset and there's a lot of things, but for me personally, I want to be hopeful, that it can be a positive thing. So but I feel like kind of going with what you're saying is like, I have a tendency for me of like, I don't get promoted or like grow my career in a traditional sense typically, like where it's like, well, this is clearly the next step up and then you go to this step up and then you go to this step up. Like it doesn't work that way for me.
Right. You're not in a corporate setting.
Right. Well, and even if I have been in corporate settings, like it doesn't work that way. Like I have to like make my own position or I have to like go sideways to go up, or you know what I mean? Like it's always a little
lateral,
different than like what typical is, And so for me, it's kind of figuring out what that next not so typical
I love that
thing is.
Because what's interesting, especially upright, the Hierophant before 1909 would have been the Pope in almost all tarot decks.
Okay.
We see it switch to the Hierophant with the involvement of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And there's also this feeling of when it's flipped, like in my book Tarot Odyssey, available on Amazon, like I think one of my first, I'm like, this card, it's like such a hippie energy when it's inverted, because it's that feeling of I can't just do something programmatically with like a simple system. Like I need to do things more in alignment with who I am and that are unique and might be a little unusual from the outside, but like check back in a month and then we'll talk about this. I think you'll be surprised, that kind of energy. Then we go into resources. Okay. So the world, resources can be anything from material resources. It could even be financial, but we see the world. It's interesting.
And it's finally upright.
And it's our first upright card. I think in a lot of ways, kind of the material things around you are in probably a very kind of stable and actually like a really positive place. Okay. I think what's interesting with this card too is the world's the final card of the major arcana. So we do see it when there's a sense of something like a big conclusion, a big thing coming up. I know that before we got on the air, you'd mentioned like some large home projects that you're working on. I could definitely see a sense of things getting in line, things like coming to fruition.
Yeah.
And then our final card is time. And for time, we have the Five of Swords, also an inversion. Yes. What speaks to me with time is, especially with this card flipped, I don't know, there's almost a sense that it feels like everyone's always competing for your time. Like I feel like there's a lot of people who place demands on your time, and there's just a lot of individuals who kind of want a slice of the pie. So I think that's been something that's been challenging. Yes. So when we look at all 5 cards, what are we going to say?
Oh, I was just saying, like I can connect that to work.
Okay.
Very easily.
Awesome.
Like, and not just at home. I mean, obviously, that's always a thing for all of us at home too. But like, yes, that feels very much true. Yes.
So by doing these first 5 cards, we're not even being particularly predictive. We're more being reflective. Really.
Yes. Because I'm going to see what I need to see in them, like which
exactly.
is what it should be.
Yes. And that's really what a exercise like this is for really seeing something within it. Was there anything just out of curiosity that struck you or that you found interesting before we go into our next row?
I mean, I think they're all interesting. I think the time one and actually the relationship piece too, because I hadn't really thought about the fact that like it's a breaking down and a rebuilding in a new way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And in a really exciting way. I feel, and I know I said this earlier, but just to repeat, I think there's a lot of language about like if something's being broken down, that it's bad. Sometimes we're getting rid of things that no longer serve us. And it's like, now I get to do this really exciting.
You should constantly be breaking down things in your life and reestablishing the things that suit you best.
Yeah. Yeah. So now we're going to get into values. Okay. So when we're manifesting, a lot of times people will be like, not all the time, but they won't even know what they want to manifest yet. They're like, I have things I want to do in the year ahead. I don't know. I don't want to make a list of like 20 things. When we look at our values can align us with our goals in really clear ways. So, for example, looking at these 5 cards and just making some connections really quickly. If something you value with time is you want more of it, which like everyone wants more time.
Yes.
But is it, I want more, I want quality, I want better, not barriers, but what's the word?
Boundaries?
Thank
Roblox.
you. Roblox. No, boundaries. Like, do I just want better boundaries with my time?
Yes.
There you go.
Or like looking at this Hierophant in inversion in the middle, the sense of, okay, well, I know professionally I always take kind of a unique path. What do I value about that? Is part of what I value about that creating new things, but also do I kind of hate creating new things sometimes because it's a lot of work? But we're going to look at some values.
Okay.
So the first card we're seeing is the 10 of Swords in inversion. Once again, very kind of spooky, dark card. I think this is a really important card to come up. I think it speaks to this value of I don't want to be overworked this year. Does that resonate at all? And you can tell me if it doesn't. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I want to work on what I want to work on.
Right.
I've been as opposed to feeling like I have to work on what other people or the world is telling me that's what I need to focus on, and I don't have time to focus on. Part of it too is I've had the last few years where I've had some family members pass away, and I'm the person that manages the estate, or whatever, where it's like I don't have like my time is naturally now forced to do these things as opposed to I get to choose.
Yeah, you've had to step up to the plate and you've had to really be of service to a lot of people, and especially people in education. They're always being of service to others.
Sure.
What's interesting with this card, if you look it up online, is the Ten of Swords shows all these swords going into someone's back. And there's a sense of, I didn't get to make these choices, and it's just a quantity issue. There's so much going on. It's hard to see the forest through the trees. I think one thing that's important to value is like, what does it look like to not take what does it look like to not take on projects? Just say no to things.
Yeah, that's
like,
the hard part.
That is the hardest word to say.
Oh, I know, right? And I think the other component too is saying, what does it look like to get to make my own choices? Because the figure in this card did not get to make choices.
Right.
So what does that look like? What does that feel like? The next card we see is the Three of Pentacles in inversion, which is a card all about collaborative energy. I think that you're someone who thrives in collaboration, but I don't think that 2024 was the easiest collaborating year. So I think there's also the sense of something that you value is good collaborative teams.
Yes.
It's not I just want to do it on my own, or I just want someone else to take care of this for me. It's like, no, I want to be part of this. I want to like be hands-on. But what does it look like to do that? What does it look like to foster that kind of teamwork, that kind of environment? As we look towards our final card for values, Two of Cups. I mean, this is the card of strong one-on-one relationships, relationships that are equitable, loving. Oftentimes, because the figures in it are so androgynously dressed, there's also a sense of relationships that are absent of like gender roles or like heteronormative thinking. There's like a really strong emphasis on just equitable partnership. I think that's also a really important value this year is I want to spend time one-on-one with people and also with people that are important to me. You have relationships now that are going through these huge transformations, and there's almost a sense of now that all this gunk is out of the way, let's get to the great stuff that we haven't been able to. Not about anyone's fault, but just the circumstance that we've been in. It hasn't been possible.
Right.
So we've analyzed our life domains. We've looked at our values. There's just one card left. You're good.
I'm good. Okay.
So talk to me about just how is this sitting with you? What are your thoughts? Give the reader, not the readers, the listeners, the listeners, just kind of a sense of what's going on in your mind in this moment.
I still, so it's a little tricky because there's still a pull of like personal versus professional.
Yeah, of course.
But I will also say though that part of me and is that my professional, not that it's not equal to personal, but it is though. Like in that, like I've chosen to be in a profession in a world.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to spend that much time at work, I want my work to mean something.
Yes.
So to me, it is personal, what I do and that it's done well. But I do also, so anyways, I do feel a little bit pulled, there's a lot going on. But again, I like so far, everything definitely seems true. And again, that idea of, changing relationships, finding people. I didn't really realize the collaboration piece because that is really important to me because I am somebody that I do kind of like to be in some ways like a lone person where I get to like as a teacher, right? Like you're in charge of your classroom, like you're in charge of like your things that you're doing. And I'm not a teacher at this moment, but like it's that concept. However, I do really like to collaborate. Yeah. And I have not felt that collaboration at work for a while. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm really like, I think in my brain, I've been saying like, I just want support. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I want to know that this organization or this group or this whatever, like supports me and the things that I'm doing. And like, I want that. And I need to see it. And so that's been a thing. Well, and
I think that also speaks to just kind of the nature of what's important to you, right? Like you talked about wanting that, like it's okay to have that lone wolf, those moments, but there's a sense of like, I want support. I also think that when people tend to get higher up in certain professions, there's a sense of there's only so much I can do on my own.
Right. Yes. And it's
exactly like I've kind of tapped the resource that is me. So we got to bring in other people if we're going to do stuff.
Yes, like that's exactly right.
Like I got to sleep. So when I'm looking at it, what am I seeing originally? Because there's one card left is some things that come to mind is when we're looking for something specific we want to manifest for the year, it's going to be specific, right? And there's a lot of things going on in your life. Right. So that's part of what makes this part of the spread so interesting and so reflective is we're not necessarily predicting. Obviously, things resonate and are connecting, but it's more a sense of, okay, so like what's important to me this year? Like, for example, I don't think I would not make this the year where we manifest something like financial or material. I think those things are important, but I think in a lot of ways, a lot of things are going very well with that. Like we're kind of like trucking along, right?
Right.
What surprises me is the collaborative, but also the relationships. So it's all very people oriented, which is also important when we're making when we're manifesting, because we want to make sure that it's still things that are within our control.
Sure.
Right.
And it goes with that time piece.
Yes, it goes with that time piece.
Yeah, definitely. The time is important.
Let's take our final card.
Okay.
The final card is the Magician in inversion.
Ooh.
All right. So sorry, I'm just taking a moment to look at all the cards now. So a couple things that strike me is, one, I think a broad theme for this year is relationships.
Yes.
Very traditional theme, nothing super psychic hit about that. That's true for a lot of people. But I do feel like a lot of the kind of material things going on in your life, and I know that there's a lot of things that you've planned and that are in motion, but I feel like they're all kind of like doing their thing.
Yeah.
Like it's all kind of working out. You're working with the right people. Everything's on a realistic timeline. As far as what to manifest, the Magician is the card of manifestation. So it's like a very apropos card. It's, what do we see on the card? We see the Magician is pointing up towards the kind of as above, so below, connecting the earthly with the spiritual, the magical, bringing their tools together, getting ready to make something. Why would this card come up in inversion? I think it speaks to what you're trying to manifest this year isn't necessarily a thing or a goal. I think you've been working real hard. And I think what we're trying to manifest here is something very introspective, but also not something that's going to have like this big glamorous outcome. You know?
Okay.
For me, it's almost what does it mean to manifest this new relationship? What does it mean to manifest the collaboration? Looking at all the cards in combination, is there something that we've talked about or that has come up that you think, oh, that really just resonates with me, or like there's just something interesting there, like it's gonna give me a little brain tickle?
Well, kind of what you were saying, something to think about is like maybe my next step in manifestation, and I think I need to break myself with the year thing too, right?
Yes.
Because it's not about like, well, this whole next year is going to be about this. It's like, but my next step is almost like, and I'm kind of actually going back to the very first card of like, I need to pick my priorities.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that, it kind of goes back to like that time piece and the relationships of like, well, which relationships are the ones like that I want to rebuild, right? And like, how do I want them to look? And, you know, I need to find the right collaborators, and I need to think about, you know, again, not taking on too much, right? And if I can start doing some of those things of kind of setting the right scene, then I'll be ready
100%
to do a next level where it's maybe a more specific
like manifestation
of like a thing, because that's part of it right now too, is like, let's just say, just to kind of put it out, I'm not going to, you know, be too specific, but like in some ways there's like two paths in a like at work, just to pick one thing that I could do, right? I could like kind of go this way, or I could kind of go that way, and I have people kind of pulling me in both directions, and I honestly don't know. I honestly don't. I don't know which one I want. I don't know which one's the better one. I don't know whatever. And so it's like, but maybe instead of me being like forcing myself, well, you must decide right now. No, like maybe it's more about me getting things in order for myself, and like being more productive with how I spend my time, and saying no to things, you know what I mean? Like all like getting ready.
I think
in a way,
especially kind of just focusing on the professional for a moment, looking at this bottom layer, this bottom like row, I think there's something that might help with that decision is who are the people you want to work with?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So kind of looking at this and also just really listening, some things that I would suggest to just be thinking about is, one, try to make a clear manifestation goal about the people you want to work with professionally.
Okay.
What do they look like? What do they feel like? Right. Maybe not feel like, but like, what's that energy like for you? Mm-hmm. What does it mean to feel supported? And what's the kind of support you want to give others? Sometimes, especially when people are making a decision between two big things professionally, it's not always about which is better. It's which is better for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
I will do better work if I'm
exactly, right. And you'll feel more supported and better. I think the other thing too is when people are being drawn in two different directions, it also is kind of proof of concept that you are valuable in both, which is very important. So I think one thing I would be thinking about for manifesting is, who do I want to work with? Mm-hmm. Who are my people? The other thing that really strikes me for manifestation is some of the relationships in your life that are going through these big changes because they're being redefined. What do you want out of them specifically?
Yeah.
Because especially with relationships we already have, it's easy to say something like, well, I want them to be better and keep being great and to feel good and to feel respected or seen. And those are all great things. But what does that mean?
Yeah, maybe some more specifics about that.
And I think that's huge because you're going through this transformation and getting really clear about what do I want these relationships to look like, how they're going to function, how they're going to act. That's really important. And I think that's going to guide a lot of the growth because I think right now you're in a place where things have been taken down and now you're regrowing. And this is the perfect time to manifest because it's going to help direct your next steps.
Yeah.
The other thing I would also just consider thinking about is, what does it look like to have boundaries, especially time-oriented boundaries? So for work, does that look like, well, once I'm off the clock, I don't check my email? What are those little steps you can take? And how do you know if the list is getting too long? Because I think for a lot of people, it's just always one other little ask, but then it's one other little thing, and then you kind of realize that you've been pushed over. So I would also think about, what do those clear boundaries look like? And setting a really strong intention or goal for yourself. Like, on Sundays, I don't do any work stuff. I don't. If it's an emergency, they'll call. They're not going to send me an email with 8 other people on it as a thread. Like, if it's an emergency, someone will call me, right? So I also think kind of narrowing in on what's that one boundary that would make all the difference for me. What would that look like? What would that feel like? Because I think it's going to give you the space to engage in these relationships, which I think is what is really strong. Like 2025 is definitely the Rebecca year. Sorry, Pat.
No, but I mean, I had a good year.
Yeah, but I think there's this other question of, as these relationships are being reshaped, or as I'm inviting them in, what do I want? And I think that's huge. So I would definitely make that your next manifestation step.
Yeah.
All right.
I would say too, is that from what I took from this, which I'm not the reader, so it doesn't really matter.
No,
and I'm not the one.
We're totally a reader. You can read.
You can bring in some ghostly or whatever you want to bring in.
I'm saying that you might have 2 choices to make. It might be more, but I think some of those choices are for others. And I think this is clearly telling you need to choose the one that's right for you, not for others.
Yeah, right.
Snaps and claps for that. Because I do think one theme in this spread, and also just knowing you personally, is you're definitely someone who's very giving. And something that comes up all the time with readers is the story of, if you run an airplane and there's an emergency and the masks are deployed, whose mask do you put on first? Yours or the child next to you?
Right.
You have to put on yours first. I think that over the last few years, you've had to give so much love and care and attention and energy to others. This is your year for, like, being a little bossier. I'm gonna say right now, public statement, this is your year for being bossy and making some demands.
All right. Word is out there.
Word's out there. The energy's out there. And also just reflecting on, you know what, now that so many people are in different places, what are the things that I really need? What does this look like for me?
Right.
And I think that is going to lead to some really beautiful manifestation. Do you have any questions about the spread or anything, or any other connections? Pat, that was a great connection, so I'm glad that you interjected. Anything else?
No, that's all that I thought of when you were reading, actually. So
nice. Yeah. Anything strike you, or any questions that come up?
No, this was super helpful. I definitely want to take a picture of it before we take it down.
We will totally take a picture. And I think this, and just kind of circling back to, so what is manifestation all about? It's getting that clear goal to make it happen. So even in going through this process, you definitely did not have a clear goal before.
Right.
And we don't really have one yet.
but I'm more on my way.
Right. We're like, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there's so many interesting and vibrant components to your life that to try to pick a little goal or a task for each of them, it's too overwhelming. We're even with this, we have it down to 2, maybe 3 things. But even just in reflecting, getting ready, doing things like gratitude exercises, thinking to yourself, you know, as I'm sitting here thinking about things I'm grateful for, what's something I'm grateful for in existing relationships that has to keep going? This is very
that
important
to me. That I want to encourage, that I want to look for more of, you know,
And even with things like teams, like what are things that I am grateful for on teams that I'm on? And what are things that I'm not, that as you're making this grateful list, there's almost a sense of, I kind of wish I could write this down, which can be really impactful and really important.
Sure.
So we'll take a picture of it.
Yeah.
And I encourage all of you, everyone listening, think about if you want to manifest this year, make a prediction for yourself. Think about the future you want to create. And that first step, whether it's through mindset, manifestation, whatever label you want to put on it, get clear and take the time to figure out what future you want to manifest. That's huge. It is so essential. I mean, Pat, your example is so, like, whenever I teach about this, I'm going to bring it up every time now because it's so good. You had such a clear, I want this, and this is why I want it, and you were aligned and ready to go.
Yeah.
Had you put a Post-it note on your desk that said anything else, it may not have happened.
No.
But you got really specific. So even this, we're opening up into that specificity and anemone to really make it happen. And if you're interested in manifesting or getting a reading like Rebecca, I'm going to do some quick plugs.
I was just going to ask, how can people do this?
Okay.
This is amazing.
So you can always see me on Instagram at Mayfield Magic. That's May like the month, field like a field of flowers, at Mayfield Magic. You can also go to my website, mayfieldmagic.com, where I do readings in person. I do events. I also do virtual readings, coachings. You can get my book, Tarot Odyssey, on Amazon. But if you, so this episode's coming out January 1st, correct?
Yes.
We think, fingers crossed.
That's our
I
plan.
predict it will happen.
Yes.
If you book a reading with me, if you're a ghostly listener, and in the first 2 weeks of January 2025, if you put in your checkout the code ghostly25, all caps, GOGH, that's why I went to spell it. Oh my goodness. GHOSTLY 25, you'll get 25% off anything you book. But it's only for 2 weeks.
Okay.
So
and if you're driving right now and you need this code, just, message us.
We'll put it in the show notes and we'll put it in on socials and all that.
Perfect. But it's just ghostly25. It's 25% off any reading, any coaching, any service you're interested in. And I hope to get to see some ghostly people digitally and in person.
Yeah.
It's always like the best fans.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best part for is that because you do it digitally, like I know we have local listeners, but we also have those that live far away or maybe don't have the time, ability, whatever to go somewhere. So it's really great that you can meet them anywhere. So you can have if you were like, oh my gosh, I wish I could have Jacob do this for me. Yeah, you can, in fact, actually do that.
Absolutely. Do you do life coaching as well?
I don't do life coaching. I do tarot coaching.
Okay.
And then I also do some other classes. Like this year, I did a new class that was tarot for self-care, which I loved.
Wow.
That was so much fun. And I know we're like at the tail end of the episode, but what inspired me for that was there's a TED Talk by Dr. Sandra Dalton, and it's a great TED Talk, and she goes over the 7 types of rest.
Okay.
And obviously, there's a lot of ways you can kind of like splice it up. But what I loved with her talk was this idea of if you're feeling burnt out, what kind of rest do you actually need right now? Like, because in my mind, growing up as a Midwesterner, physical rest, end of list, sleep. And she goes over all these different kinds of rest we need. And the whole workshop was about really kind of clicking into that and doing spreads where you could explore what kind of rest do I need? How do I want to get it? How do I want to do that self-care? So I do some coaching, especially tarot coachings. If you know tarot and you really want to take it to the next level, I love teaching tarot. It's probably one of my favorite things I've been doing this year.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
Very cool.
Well, thank you so much for coming on again. You always bring a lot of insight into our year. And I always think back to our episode throughout the whole entire year to say, is this prediction coming true? there's always like one that sticks in my mind, and you've always hit it. So
so especially with Rebecca, we'll have someone that we can go to specifically.
Yes, right. Now I was just gonna say, do you want to do a 1-card draw for Pat super quick?
How about this?
We'd have to
Why don't we do?
away.
No, we don't have to take away.
No.
Let's do this. Why don't we do? Because this is a predictions episode.
Right.
In case you've been waiting this long and you really want some predictions, let's do a prediction for Pat and some for our ghostly listeners. So things to keep in mind.
All right.
So for Pat, Queen of Swords in inversion, I think what's going to be most important in the year ahead for you is communicating really clearly with an intelligent woman in your life. I feel like this is your time to be listening, really focusing in, really feeling that care, really being there. I feel like it's a year where communications, connections are going to be stronger than ever. I think mixed with that as well, Wheel of Fortune in inversion, it's going to feel like a catch-up year for you, where things that have been delayed medically and through pandemics and stuff, like that is finally going to happen. And then the thing that I think you're going to find most surprising this year is that it's going to feel like a very stable year, although a lot's changing.
Okay.
So I think that's an interesting energy. As far as our listeners go, some predictions to keep in mind for those listening. 5 of Cups in its upright position. Know that what's important this year is to make sure you're not just focusing on the negative, but seeing the whole picture. It's not about being overly optimistic or silly. It's about saying, well, no, let me look at everything.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
Right. It's saying like there might be some doom and gloom. That's important to recognize, but also see the positives.
Right.
I also think this will be an important year for our listeners to reconnect with things that they enjoyed in their childhood. If there's like, if you were a big Goosebumps person, like, like find the TV shows, get some of the old books. And then a final card is 5 of Pentacles in inversion. Know that this year, what's going to be most important in moments of challenge and struggle is going to be finding those people who will help you through them. Remember, in an entire year ahead, it would be ridiculous for me to say everything will be positive. That's so unrealistic. But there's also a sense of how do I get through those challenges? And for those listening, I think knowing who are those really close ride or die friends who are there for you when you're kind of at your grossest, at your kind of gnarliest, who are those people you can call, you can text, you can email, whatever you have to do so that you can feel that support. So once again, for our listeners, know that this year, see the negative, like it happens, but also see the things that are positive, reignite and embrace those childhood things, really dig into nostalgia. And finally, with the 5 of Pentacles in inversion, know that for those tough challenges, what's going to be one of the most important factors is really having that right person with you. So think ahead. Who are those people you know you can call, trust, who are there, who love you, care for you, support you? They want to be there for you. Remember, every time that you've ever helped a person, it feels good. Other people would also like to feel good. So do not take that feeling from them. Let them help you.
There you go.
So many people I work with, they do so much help and care for others, and they find so much fulfillment in that.
Sure.
And then I'm like, let other people feel that too. It's okay to ask for help. And that's what I'm seeing for our listeners this year.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I hope to have you on in the year without just waiting the full year to have you on next year. So I look forward to something.
All right. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. I want to thank you so much for listening and supporting us throughout the previous year. And we look forward to a year of just a ton of stuff.
I'm excited. I mean, we already have some good episode ideas. And I think that, the door is kind of wide open for us to do some new things this year.
So one of the things that I want to find this year, since this is, our first of the year, I want to find a new sponsor. So if you're interested in sponsoring Ghostly, let us know. We'll make it work for you.
Absolutely. We love collaborations and we're open to
absolutely.
Ideas.
And I want to do more conventions or more public appearances.
Yes.
Yeah. So until next time, stay ghostly.
Bye.